Well, the International Relations Minister and her officials are at risk of being charged as accessories to war crimes and could further be sued for reparations. This is according to attorney Emile Myburgh, who is advised embassies on diplomatic immunity for more than 20 years now. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected in South Africa in August, but the government has indicated it will not arrest him. The International Criminal Court has issued a warrant of arrest for Putin for alleged war crimes in Ukraine, and Myburgh has penned a legal opinion on the matter. He joins us now to unpack why he thinks the International Relations Ministry is at risk of prosecution. So, Emile Myburgh, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for correcting me off air regarding your name. You're not Emily, you're Emile. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Newslink. But you raise quite significant risks here for the Department of International Relations Minister Naledi Pandor and other officials for being either sued for reparations or being accessories in war crimes. How significant are these risks?
The risks can be significant. These issues have not been raised before here in South Africa, but if one looks at the ICC statute, International Criminal Court statute, that has been implemented in South Africa, it clearly makes provision for reparations to be paid by perpetrators of war crimes. It also prohibits anybody from impeding the work of the International Criminal Court. And my view is that by not executing an arrest warrant, as we are obliged to, we are actually impeding the work of the International Criminal Court and thereby becoming co-defendants with Vladimir Putin. Furthermore, the statute is very clear that victims of war crimes can claim reparations from the perpetrators. And in my view, it would certainly be a good case to make out by a Ukrainian victim to say, listen, I've suffered because of your failure to uphold your part of the deal, your part of the convention, and therefore you owe me money. That's certainly a case that I think the South African government will have to answer.
We've so far heard from the Department of International Relations and Cooperation saying they're still awaiting legal advice and recommendations around this matter, even diplomatic immunity being part of the conversation. But you're saying the mandate here or the position of SA Legal is clear, that we have to arrest Putin.
Yes. I'm not sure how the department still thinks that there's some room for maneuver, because there isn't. The Supreme Court of Appeal in that Omar al-Bashir case in 2016 was very clear that there is no diplomatic immunity for anyone when it comes to an International Criminal Court arrest warrant. Look, they may have diplomatic immunity when it comes to parking on yellow lines, but they do not have diplomatic immunity with regards to an International Criminal Court arrest warrant.
Emile, I mean, one would then argue, what about the other Western and European governments? First, one, would you say the same arguments do apply to them? But also, and I'm sure this is not the first time you're hearing this question, I mean, why then have those Western officials not been arrested for the crimes being committed in other parts of the world?
I'm not sure why those heads have not been arrested, but the argument that the ICC applies double standards is a manufactured argument. There have been Western and European leaders that have been taken to the International Criminal Court. I'm talking about Slobodan Milosevic and Radan Karadzic. These are Western leaders, Western heads of state that have been taken to the International Criminal Court. They have been tried and have been sentenced. Now, the fact that the ICC may be perceived not to apply their rules uniformly does not mean that they do not have any legitimacy to prosecute Vladimir Putin or anyone else. So, I mean, if one has to use that argument that if you don't prosecute everyone, you can't prosecute anyone, then we can just as well close down the entire criminal justice system in this country.
And therefore, you're giving this advice to the Department of International Relations. You're saying it's pro bono in your opinion piece. What's the advice then?
The advice is there is no doubt they must arrest Vladimir Putin or any other suspect with an International Criminal Court arrest warrant if that person steps foot in South Africa. There is no diplomatic immunity in such a case. There is no doubt, and they must arrest Vladimir Putin.
I mean, it could perhaps be some of the other options that have been often heard in public being considered, that either the BRICS meeting could be moved to another country. Do you think this in any way, in some way or the other, almost shapes South Africa's positioning with Russia? Because, I mean, oftentimes we'd hear, is South Africa not taking a stance because they're still loyal in their political friendship with Russia? Do you think if we see South Africa taking an alternative route, such as moving the meeting to another country, then that could automatically state their position in this conflict between Russia and Ukraine?
Look, first of all, I must just say that South Africa owes nothing to Russia. The country that supported the struggle against apartheid was the Soviet Union, and they no longer exist. It is cynical of Russia to kind of expect any kind of gratitude from the countries that the Soviet Union supported. The Soviet Union is gone, and we owe Russia nothing. With regards to moving the meeting, that is the best that we can do. We have to be honest with our friend Vladimir Putin and say, buddy, I'm sorry, we have to arrest you. Best is you don't come here. So moving the meeting elsewhere is a capitulation, but I think that's the best that the government can do to avoid having to arrest Vladimir Putin coming to South Africa.
Emile, we'll leave it there. I appreciate you speaking to me about this. Emile Myburgh, an attorney, is talking to us about his opinion piece narrating some advice for the International Relations Department. This, of course, as he states, running the risk of being charged as accessories in war crimes and could possibly as well be sued for reparations.